1, 2, 3. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Entrepreneur Life Podcast, your go-to podcast for all things entrepreneurship, accounting, and lifestyle. I'm your host, Katey Maddux, founder, speaker, author, serial entrepreneur, and avid traveler. And today I have with me Cindy Summer. I'm so excited you're here. Summer is a luxury real estate advisor on Miami's #1 new construction team, the Ivan and Mike team at Compass. In her first year as a realtor in Miami, Summer closed 31 transactions totaling $13.5 million. Prior to her real estate career, she built a digital marketing agency into a 6-figure business, allowing her to understand and establish her authority online. As a resident of Miami Beach, Summer enjoys serving clients in the coastal Miami areas of Brickell, Edgewater, downtown, Coconut Grove, and beyond. She specializes in helping investors seeking short-term rentals, projects under construction, and resales.
Yes.
So glad you're here.
Thank you for having me, neighbor.
Yes, neighbor and old friend.
Yes.
It's been a long time coming.
Yes.
I'm so excited. Why don't you tell everybody who you are? Where do you come from?
Well, I was born and raised in Puerto Rico. And when I was 15, I moved to Miami in high school and graduated from Coral Gables High, go Cavs. And then from there, I went to Florida State University, graduated with a degree in hospitality management and marketing, and then moved to California, spent 6 years there. Lived in Spain for a little bit, and then eventually made it back to Miami in 2017. And now I am back here. So Latina with a lot of sass, with a passion for the ocean and all things beautiful, the sun, and definitely dancer. We served on the dance team together at our church.
Yep.
Number one thing that brings me joy is dancing. Yes. 100%. Family woman, moved back to Miami because my family's here, and now find my way into the real estate world. So I'm a lover, I'm a worker, I'm a fighter, I'm a friend.
Hustler.
Yeah, that's who I am.
I think there's been so many times where I've just been so impressed by you. You have a larger capacity, I think, than almost anyone I've ever met. And I remember watching, when we became friends, what was that, about 5 years ago now, 2018, when I moved to Miami. You were one of my first friends here. And just watching everything that you've been able to do and everything you've been able to accomplish. Like, you've started so many businesses, you've grown so many businesses, and just the ability to not only run a business, but to run 2 or 3 businesses at a time, to run 2 businesses while also having a job. It's just always blown my mind. Like, how were you able to do it all? Do you have any tips and tricks or any secrets, or was there anything that was really fueling you to be like, okay, I can do it for this long? It just, to do that for a month or 2 is okay, but you did it for years. How?
You can identify there too, because you're also a go-getter. I think that the first thing that fuels me to go that long naturally is the money, right? Coming from the background that I come from, not having much, in Puerto Rico, moving here, there was always lacking. Right? And I always told myself, if I can help myself, then I can help my family. Mm-hmm. And I didn't have daddy money. I didn't have mommy money. I didn't have a sugar daddy.
No sugar
Still
daddy
don't have one. So it's okay. I don't have the financial instruments, but I've got my education. I've got my ability to connect with people. I'm super outgoing. I'm comfortable in any space. Mm-hmm. I got that mentality of I'm going to figure it out. So I think not only was money driving me, but also if I don't give myself the space in all these different areas, how am I going to know my passion? What drives me? Mm-hmm. So yeah, we can talk about at 22 years old, my very first encounter with hustling really was network marketing.
Yeah. We've talked about this.
Yeah. And can I say the company? I don't know if I can.
Yeah.
Okay.
Say whatever you want.
So getting into Mary Kay Cosmetics was my first encounter with business and hustling, right? Mm-hmm. I learned much more than that. Time management, money management, how to build a team, how to be a leader, how to be a follower. Mm-hmm. And most importantly, what drives me, because we talk about that all the time. I love how we talk about an Enneagram all the time, right?
Yeah.
Like I can totally see you as a 1 and I can recognize that. And I know that as an achiever, I'm a 3 and I can find identity in my accomplishments. But when I started my Mary Kay business, that's when I realized that I was recognition driven.
Interesting.
And then from there, every single step that I took in whatever businesses was either chasing some type of accolade, sometimes more than the money. And that drives me. And it could also come from, everything comes from your childhood, right?
Yeah.
Everything comes from my childhood, from showing my dad that I am worth it, that I also matter. But rather than just taking that as a negative thing in my life, mm-hmm. you turn it into positive. If that's what drives me, then I'm going to go for that. And I'm going to satisfy the child within. Mm-hmm. So between that gives me validation, yes. and the money that gives me stability, mm-hmm. is what truly keeps me going for long periods of time on any given project that I give myself. Mm-hmm. And also I say, if you're going to try something, you better do it for a year or more. Like yeah. If I stuck with something, I'm not going to quit in a month, because you don't really know if you're going to do it. So if I look back at my life and everything that I've done, it's been for a year or longer, and usually is longer.
Interesting. And I know, like, when you and I have talked about kind of your growth over, time, and just kind of going from like being in the rat race and hustling, living day to day, living paycheck to paycheck, to now being in luxury real estate, and you're very successful at it. That time frame was very short, right? Like less than 2 years that you went.
Relatively.
Right.
It felt like forever. Like, really.
But the time frame that it took you to literally change your entire life, to change your socioeconomic status, to change, to become like a high value human being. Not that you weren't high value before, but do you get where I'm going with this? Like, mm-hmm. what would you say was something that really accelerated that process, or that a lot of people, if they even get to where you are, it took them 10 years, 20 years, 40 years, and you were able to like make this really accelerated change? What do you think drove that? And do you have any tips for anybody else who's like, I feel like I'm in the rat race, I feel like I'm paycheck to paycheck, but I want to be, high end, making a lot of money, very successful?
I think you have to know what drives you, because I could have done this a long time ago with anything. But if it doesn't drive you, if you don't find joy in it, it's not sustainable, mm-hmm. at the end of the day.
Right.
And I never would have told you that it was going to be real estate for me. I never wanted to be in real estate.
Interesting. I
never cared about real estate. I would talk to people about real estate and I would shut down, because I'm like, I don't understand the terms. I don't know what you're talking about. I'm shut down. So I never, if you had asked me 5 years ago, do you see yourself in real estate? I would have been like, no.
Kind of like when my mentor was like, you're going into ministry. I laughed.
Yeah. So never say never.
Yes.
Give yourself the space to dab in little things. But for me, it's always been in the same space. It's always been marketing and sales where I found the most joy, because I am a people person. I like talking. I look back at hospitality when I worked for a hotel chain, for 5 years, and I was working as assistant director of housekeeping, 9 to 5. That was really 14 hours a day. I was in a dungeon, doing office work. I was not happy. And I knew that I was a flexibility and freedom type of person. So that would be the first thing, would be figuring out what it is that drives you. And second most important is having a mentor.
Absolutely.
And I understood that after the fact. I mean, in Mary Kay, the reason why I because I did well in Mary Kay. I became a director. I had 95 people in my team at some point. You know, we earned 3 cars. I earned a trip. I earned diamonds. So I knew that whenever I put my mind to something, I can make it happen. Mm-hmm. The problem with that is that if you're not careful, you don't know where your money goes.
Right.
So that was my first encounter at making money. But as soon as it came in,
it went out the back door.
It was like, oh, I have $7,000 in my bank account to me. That was a lot. So then I was like, then I threw my mom a birthday party. I flew my aunt from Puerto Rico over here. I was like going on dinners. So, and I had a mentor, but my mentor was here in Miami while I was in California. So proximity is power. Tony Robbins says that all the time. And so one of the reasons why I had fast success in real estate is because I had 2 mentors that were operating here. Mm-hmm. And when I was operating here, they would pull me back up and they would check in on me. And the accountability was daily. I remember sometimes I would be on my couch and I was like watching TV in the middle of the day when I first started, and I would get a call. What are you doing? I was like, I am on making calls, you know? And it's like daily check-ins, daily accountability. And it's because they really held me in high regard and were expecting me to operate at a level that I didn't know I could operate. When I've been thinking that I can operate here, they moved the bar higher. And that's why a mentor is so important. A mentor that's invested in your success and in you as a human being. Because a lot of times, I wanted to quit real estate a lot of times. And if my mentor hadn't been there, and to me that mentor has been Mike Martirena, who is one of the principals in the avid and my team. If he hadn't called me that moment that I was having, the world was ending because somebody said something and it hurt me and I was crying and I was like, I don't want to do this anymore. If I hadn't been because he picked up the call and said, it's okay, this has happened to me too, you can do it, it'll make you better, I would have quit real estate.
Wow.
I would have quit. So mentor number 2, I would say you have to be part of a group and part of an organization that is going places. The speed of the leader is the speed of the gang. Mary Kay says that.
Everything rises and falls on leadership. I don't know who says that. John Maxwell? I don't remember.
Probably sounds like something he would say. So I would say that, and then having a why. I think those are the 3 things most important, right? Why do you have to work hard? Because you can have something that brings you joy and you can have the mentor. But if you don't have urgency, then whatever I did in 13 months could have taken me 5 years.
Yes, absolutely. It's funny how when you see people who kind of go from 0 to nothing or 0 to 100, a lot of times it's because they're in survival mode, you know, and they need to be pulled out. Whereas other people, if they're comfortable, they're not really in a hurry to go from 6 figures to 7 or from 5 figures to 6, because it's like, yeah, I'll get there when I get there, but I'm good. I'm comfortable, you know, like, yeah. But if you're trying to pull your family up along with you, if you're trying to break generational curses, if you're trying to be the first in your family to go to school, there is that survival mode sense of urgency. And what's interesting is Chris Valentin teaches on this about like the different levels of motivation and how they change as you change. And so he talks about how like he used to motivate his people by raising their income. But then once they got to a place where they were at a stable income, giving them more money no longer motivated them because now they were out of survival mode. But they got motivated by what you were saying, even with Mary Kay, was recognition. And so then he used to compare their stats to each other. And that motivated them when it used to be money that motivated them, because now that they're not in survival mode, money isn't motivating anymore.
And that happened to me.
Yeah. And it's just interesting how it was so relatable, but I had just never thought through it that way. And then once it was like people, once they got the recognition, it was like they needed something new to motivate them, and how he kept having to relearn how to motivate people, and just how as they became more successful, how those things changed.
Yeah.
And even how when their family situation changed, it affected, right? Before they would just leave at 5, but then they had kids. You know, and when the kids were babies, they wanted to work harder to make more money. But then when the kids were older, maybe they wanted to work less so they had time with the kids. And just understanding that what motivates one person today might not motivate them tomorrow. And as a leader, learning how to move in and pivot with the phase of life that your people are in. Because if you try to stay stagnant as a leader, your people, they're going to change. So either you change with them or they'll leave.
That's why it's important to be a present leader and to know your people. It's exactly what you're saying. Because you can be, if you're not invested in my life, you won't know how to lead me.
Right.
Right. And when I think about people have asked me, oh, would you want to have a team? Because they've approached me about EXP multiple times. And it's not that I don't want to grow a team, is that I'm not ready. I am in a state of receiving in my career, right? And learning from the people above me that have been in the industry 17 plus years than me giving to someone. So I'm in a mode of being selfish, and I've recognized that because when I got to a certain point, I was like, I had a conversation with my mentor and I said, what do you do when you're making more money than you ever made, when you're making in 1 month what you used to make in a year? What motivates you? How do you continue to work as hard, and what pulls you forward? And that's why it's so important to have goals and the next step and the next step. It takes sometimes when we talk about, you've heard that saying that says, I can tell a lot about what you pray for. Are you only praying to change you? Are you praying to change your community and the world? It's the same thing with work. You know, you start working for yourself to get yourself out of the rut, the hole. Then you start praying for your family, and then you start seeing further, oh, now I can impact my friends. Now I can impact my community. Then the state, the nation, you know, the more your capacity grows, the more that vision can grow if you have the eyes on the right prize. Because if it's all about money, it gets old because it loses
its importance.
Its importance. So the why is very important. It can't just be money, because money comes and goes.
Right.
It's much more than that. So I think that going back to the leadership, like why it's so important that they need to get to know you. And whenever I find myself there, I look up. When I something happened to me that I'm not ready to talk about in my business, and for the last 6 months, I had to operate at a different level. This just from June to December of 2022. I operated differently because I had to operate differently. And I had to be accountable for certain things. And in the last 6 months, I've seen a lot more than I saw even when I first started. Because first I was working out of desperation. Then I started working out of joy because then the money started coming. And then I was working out of, okay, now I'm in this situation. What can I do to create impact? So for people that are starting, that are saying, how do I get myself out of the rat race? And we say, find a mentor. How do you find a mentor? That's so important to figure it out. And it can't just be anybody. I would say someone that if you want to trade lives with the person that you want to have a mentor, then that's like the right person, right? You can admire them in more than just one area. And then in order for that person who is busy to invest time in you, what can you offer? So for me, I knew my background in digital marketing and social media and all of that, and running a business. I knew that if I came into their team, they didn't have to babysit me, because you can give me direction and I run. So as a real estate agent, what makes you successful is not knowing about sales, it's marketing and sales. And can you go out there and network? And can you go out there and pull people? And can you create community? And also I have that talent of social media. You know, I love talking, and I'm bringing that as an add-on, as a add-on value to my mentor. And so when he was mentoring me, I was teaching him other things that he didn't know about, because it doesn't matter how successful you are, you don't know everything.
Absolutely. I think we talked about that on the first episode of this podcast, was how do you find mentors, but also make sure that you're giving back to them the way that they're giving back to you, and not just take handouts.
And you don't have to give them money.
No, it absolutely doesn't have to be money. You know, I had told people, offer to pay them, offer to take them out to lunch, or just give them exactly what you said. You have skills in social media. He didn't. You're going to give him tips on social media, and he's going to give you, advice in growing your business. And
I was also willing to do the
100%.
rentals. And you're operating with clients that are buying at $4 million and up. Do you really want to go and do rentals? No. Out of those 31 transactions, the majority of that were rentals. And so I was willing to go and do it and figure it out. And a rental takes almost double the work than a sale takes in real estate.
Interesting.
And it's much less money. So it wasn't about the money for me. It was about what can I learn? How can I provide value to the people above me? How can I learn fast? So I knew that I could do a lot of volume. It didn't matter if the rental was $1,500 or if it was $10,000. It didn't matter. I was doing the work. I was learning the contracts. I was learning the discipline. I didn't even know how to send a text message and how to schedule a showing. And a lot of people coming into real estate don't know. And when I came in, I had 65 leads, I think it was my first month. And everybody was out and about. There was like no one in the office, right? So sometimes you have to do the work in order to learn rather than sit down and try to learn everything to do it, because that's how you get analysis paralysis. Oh, I have to learn all of it. Oh, I don't know how to do this. When I do this, then I'll do that. No, go out there, and I promise you the process is going to give you the answers that you're looking for.
Right. Yes, I concur. I remember when I took on my first client, and I had very little. I'd worked for my mom in high school doing accounting, but I didn't go to college for accounting, right? I went to college for fashion. And so when I took on my first client, I did not have a lot of accounting background, but it was, to this day, the hardest cleanup job I've ever had. And so
you're really good at it. I mean, let's be honest.
And I'm good at it.
Yes.
But I wasn't then.
Yes.
And it was, yes, get some formal training, but also you learn as you go. And you learn by making mistakes. And but I think it's both and, right? Have the mentor. Because for me, I had my mom. And so I would do work, and then she would check it. Before the work ever went back to the client, my mom, the expert, would check my work. And so we're not practicing on clients without...
We don't practice on people,
We
right?
don't practice on people. VU motto number, how many?
Yeah. Learn a lot from the church, that's for sure.
Yeah. But just making, taking the step to just step out and try the business. You know what I mean? You don't have to learn everything first. I think we talked about this in another episode too, but like it's both and. It's both formal training and experience. And if you try to go all one or all the other, it's not going to be excellent. To be excellent, you have to learn from experience, because that's where you learn how to overcome different adversities in the business, but also get some formal training like what you're getting from your mentor.
Yeah.
You're having somebody who's teaching you exactly how to do it, and maybe not exactly how, but just giving you some keys.
And also the service that you give people. If you're giving a service, you're working with different people. And I'm sure you learned this too when you started working with people, that you have to become whatever personality whatever that client needs from you, basically you provide. So if the person is detail oriented, in the DISC from Tony Robbins, if they're a D, a leader, if they're an I and they're influential and they love talking, or if they're an S and they love safety, or C, conscientious and they're detail oriented, then you have to be able to serve them. So a combination of what you're saying, experience and education, is definitely needed. So as a real estate agent, I'm coming in, I get my license, I go out into the field. I'm also going under the wing of my mentors, both Ivan and Mike. And I'm going back to school and take another class on contracts, how to write contracts. I'm going back to our admin, who was always there to guide us. And then I'm going back, a year and a half later to do my post-licensing course. Now I'm registered for my broker's license coming up this May 2023. So there's always the next step for me to develop, not only in my education, but also when it comes to studying personalities. If I'm talking to a client who is like high caliber, doesn't have a lot of time, wants a ABC, I'm not going to talk to them about the building that was built in, 2018 and who like the developer is and all of this. Then I'm saying, okay, you're looking for a 2-bedroom, 1.2. This is within your budget. This is why I think it's good. 1 and 2. Do you want to see it? Let's go. And also when you start serving people at a different level, then the service changes. So you also have to understand that from working with someone who needs me to ask them questions and have multiple conversations all the time to working with someone who doesn't even want to tell you what they want to see, that I should know how to serve them, that I should know what they want to do. Right?
I think about that even with my own assistant. I'm like, can you just build something?
But it's so important
you know that
she gets to, yes, but that comes with time and her getting to know you. So then at this point, I'm just spending time with, because you don't want to talk about business. Right. We're spending time so that I get to know this person, what they like. And then from that, I say, based on this conversation, I think that you're going to like this building. I've already scheduled the showings for you because your assistant told me that you're available these times. I'll see you there. So sometimes the conversations were going like that. It wasn't just having conversations, but me serving them in a way that I was really taking that time, not putting that on their plate, and really just being responsible for it. So understanding how to serve people, which also comes from what we've done at church.
Yes.
I cannot even tell you how many things we've been serving at church, how long I've been at VU for.
I've been there 4 years.
I started in 2018.
Yeah. I moved here 2018, started serving 2019.
Okay, so I've been there 5 years. And I've done dance, I've done stage, I've co-led. A lot of the things that I've learned there, I've applied to my business. And it's incredible how much you can learn from a nonprofit organization where you're just there to give your time. People say, why do you put so much time in serving? You're there from 6 a.m. until 3 p.m. And I'm like, it's so much more than that. God is using me and also blessing me at the same time. But I can only see it later when I look back in retrospect and I say, wow, I learned that from this. So when you learn how to serve people and be kind, your business changes. Right? Being proactive rather than reactive. That was another thing I had to learn, to like, shut up. Listen, don't react. Someone says something to you. You're this and you're that. Has nothing to do with me. That person's having a bad time. And every single time they always come back and apologize. Sometimes I choose not to work with them anymore because, let's be honest, there's a level of respect, boundaries, and respect. But you need to have a threshold, I think, of, I don't want to say taking it, but you have to figure out what works for you and what doesn't. And if you can stay there and recognize that it's not about you, it's always about that person, because they're always a reflection of whatever's happening in their life, then you'll be successful in whatever you do.
Yes. I think the same applies, like, for me, for ministry school. I learned how to hire my team from ministry school because they teach you how to work with people, and they teach you how to pull out the best in people and how to, invest into people, not just how to pull out what you want from them, but also how to invest into them. And so there's so many things that you learn in church or nonprofits, like you said, that are crossover, because running a ministry is just like running a business. You need finances. You need to manage people. You need to know how to be kind. You need to know how to provide services. You need to do all the same things that you do in a business. You're just motivated by something different. But essentially, they're the same thing. One's motivated by faith and one's motivated by maybe money or whatever. But the concept is exactly the same.
Right.
And so many times in ministry, I feel like people don't realize that they also need the skills that, like, business people have, right? They need to be able to manage people. They need to be able to learn leadership. They need to focus on all of the different aspects of running an organization, be it motivated for money or motivated for the purpose of sharing their faith. It's just, running an organization requires people skills. Look at a corporation. They have an HR department. They have finance department, so money skills, right? They have marketing department. So how are you going to share your message? They have a sales department. How are you going to get people to listen and come in? It's the same thing. They're just
even the run-off show, like how crazy it is. So we do the run-off show, we were talking about this the other day, the PCO, how it goes, we get here at this time and at this time we do the welcome, the call times. And
even in VU Kids, we have call times, run through, rehearsal.
That served me when I was scheduling showings. That was like the biggest thing for me. It's like, how do I fit in all these many showings? How do I figure it out? And then I I learned how to do it based on the personality of the person. So I'm like, this person likes talking, so I need 45 minutes for a showing. So one showing here, 45 minutes each. And then after this, and so I had to get really good, not only at managing myself, but managing others. Mm-hmm. And that is one of the secrets to success as a real estate agent is being able to manage other people. So if you think that, just because I told you that I was going to have a showing at this time, if I don't check in on you the day before to confirm, I sent you an email, I sent you a calendar invite the morning of, I checked in with you again, and I sent you the first address, I always assume that they didn't see whatever I sent them. And that has helped me a lot.
I think one thing that you said that would be really applicable to entrepreneurs is that learning how to work with different categories of people and learning how to realize like what is your service offering and where do those people kind of fall on a scale. So like, do you want to work with commodity level services? Do you want to work with luxury level services? And what are the differences in those two clients? Because exactly what you said, right? Somebody who's a luxury client is going to be high end. They have less time. They want to get to know you, but they don't really care about the details. Whereas if you're going to serve somebody in an industry that's commodity, or is your service offering, maybe you're a photographer. I have clients in my accounting business that are photographers. The difference between the luxury photographers and the commodity photographers, right? One's competing on price. One absolutely does not care if you can afford or not afford her services, right? One is working with family portraits. The other one is working with high-end brands. And they work with people so differently, but they're offering the same service. And so as an entrepreneur, you need to decide what level of service are you providing and what level of people do you like to work with.
But it also that comes with experience too.
Absolutely.
You can't just start something and want to operate up here because they're expecting a level of experience, right? Like I'm not ready to work with, a buyer that's looking for a $10 million property. Then I have to get my mentors involved because my sweet spot is between, $1 million to $3 million. That's where I operate the best. But it's because I've already had this level of experience with the caliber of people. I know the questions they're asking. I have the answers to the questions they're asking, right? And as an entrepreneur, there's so many different areas within an industry that you can work in that you have to figure that out. So for example, within real estate, as you said, my sweet spot is working with investors looking for short-term rentals, buildings in Coastal Miami. You won't find me in Hialeah if it's someone that I love in my family or a close friend that's looking for a home in Hialeah, nothing bad with Hialeah. It could be Doral. You won't find me over there because I don't find joy in driving all the way there when I live in South Beach.
Right.
So you'll find me where the condos are, which are Brickell, Edgewater, Miami Beach. I will drive to Sunny Isles. I'll drive to Aventura, even though it's not like my sweet spot, but I'm not working with first-time home buyers all the time, even though I have, right? My sweet spot is people that don't live in Miami, that are coming from out of town, that come for a weekend, that I can show them what Miami has to offer because I love being out in Miami. So you just have to figure out what it is that you find joy. I didn't know that when I first started in real estate. And then as you're going through the process, then you figure out, okay, this is where I'm good at. Then let me talk about this. Let me market myself in this. And let me get expertise and knowledge in this area of life.
But I think it's both and. I think if you don't have the intention set of who you want to work with, then you're never going to get the experience there. So I think you have to first be intentional of who you want to work with before going after getting that experience. Because if you're like, I want to work with luxury, but I keep getting experience in commodity, or if I'm setting my prices at commodity, or I'm setting my brand at a commodity, if the vibe of the brand says commodity, it doesn't matter what your experience is.
I think that's why it's important to be within the group, because maybe if I wanted that anyway, but I didn't have
like we're talking entrepreneurs,
right?
In general, not just real estate.
But as I'm saying, as an entrepreneur, say you want to work like within that, then do you have someone, for example, if you were doing you're a photographer and you wanted to do weddings, as much as you want to do weddings, if you don't have any experience in weddings, you're not going to be able to do it. Right. And you don't even know if you're going to like weddings. So it's finding someone.
A mentor.
Here's a photographer that does wedding photography who needs someone the day of to run with her. Don't do it for money. Do it just to help her and be there. Have the experience. Do I like weddings? And then figure it out. I feel like so many entrepreneurs get so caught up in the where can I make money and what will make me the most money, that they forget about serving others and getting the experience first, regardless of the financial outcome. And that I feel like that's how you start. Then once you're making the dinero, then you can go doing whatever you want to do. Saying cash money. Cash is king.
Cash is absolutely king. I think pivoting a little bit in terms of like being a high value or a high end person. We were talking about this even the other day, like talking about like, what does it look like to date and to have boundaries and to have expectations, even in the dating world, as somebody who considers themselves like somebody who's operating at a high level of success,
a hot topic.
At a high level of competency, and is working out of a spirit of excellence. I think that's so important, right? It's not just making money, but are you actually putting effort into being excellent, not just in your job, but as a human? You know, do you have a spirit of excellence? But how have you found that as you've kind of stepped into that role as a woman?
I have to laugh. I think that we stop ourselves a lot, or I was stopping myself a lot from dating world because I needed to fix other things in my life, right? I want a specific man, you know, at a financial level, at a mental level, at an emotional level, that if I wasn't that person first, I couldn't find that man. And so for me, it was important to get my career right, my money right, my heart right, in order to find that person, because whatever you are is what you attract. And also, if you've never dated that type of man before, then you don't know what it looks like, right? And I think that I love the conversations that we have, because as two women who are go-getters, focused, talented go-getters, who also need their space to release, which is so important.
Yeah, understatement of the year. Love my space.
Love my space. It's hard to find someone who can be that, because I've had, you know, men in my life that had everything that I thought I wanted in a man, but also wanted all of my time and attention. And as I'm building my empire, I don't always want to get home to talk to someone. I just want to like relax, not do anything, not talk, and maybe not give love to that extent. And then I later realized that it's not that I didn't want to give love, it's just that it was the wrong man. Mm-hmm. Because it shouldn't feel like homework. It shouldn't feel like another box I need to check. It shouldn't feel like work.
Yeah.
And when you attract that man who is further than where you're at, mm-hmm. and can pull you, that motivates you to do more.
Yeah, absolutely.
And also, he's not checking in with you all day because he's also busy.
Right.
So let's talk about it.
The last guy that I was talking to, I loved it because like he was busy working on his business. I was busy working on my business. We didn't talk all day. We talked once a day. And I was fine with that because I'm busy. He's busy. And I'm not questioning, you know, why is he not texting me? Because I'm assuming we're both running a successful business. I'm assuming that he's busy and he's proactive in his communication. So I'm not overanalyzing
because you have your own stuff.
Because I trust that he's doing his thing because I'm doing my thing. And we have both already over communicated and proactively set boundaries and proactively said, like, this is what my day looks like. And here's a good time for us to communicate. And we're very upfront with our situation to each other. And so it wasn't a case of like questioning, when is he going to text me?
But the only reason why you were able to be upfront with him is because you know who you are and you're confident in that. And I had to understand that. You know, if I look back at like young me, mm-hmm. I couldn't voice what I wanted because I didn't know what I wanted. Right. So it comes from maturity, like getting into your 30s is a beautiful thing. I can imagine once I get into my 40s because there's so much confidence in that. And also the quality of the questions in that relationship changes, you know, rather than
Oh my gosh, it was so different.
went from like, how was your day to what win do you have today?
Yeah, what did you build today?
Yes. To who do you impact today? Who do you make smile today?
Yeah.
You know, in what way do you grow spiritually today? The quality of the questions once you get up here, it's like, okay, it's not just mindless chat.
Honestly.
It's intentional.
There was
and
another
it's beautiful.
guy last week. It was like the how was your day thing. And I'm like, if you're just going to ask me how my day was every day, I'm out. I'm sorry. I'm sure you're a great person. You're not my person.
You know what the answer is?
Next.
Good.
Right. It was great.
Yeah. I mean, come on. Oh, it's exhausting. So people say like, how are you? I'm like, I'm good. Like
Anything
have
else?
intentionality.
Yeah.
Have intentionality. And I think, oh my gosh, it's refreshing because you don't know what you don't know.
Right.
And as we were saying before, everything has to happen within first. Happens on a spiritual level before it manifests into the physical. And that comes like where you are mentally, where you are spiritually, where you are in your heart. Where are you operating? Right? Because if I'm operating in a spirit of lacking and need,
dependency,
then that's exactly what's going to come into my life. A man who needs, right? So you got to cut it off and then work on yourself and become that person who you want to become. That's why I'm working on every day.
Becoming the person you want to become.
Yeah.
Physically, emotionally, spiritually.
Absolutely. Like you know, I'm like fine the way that I look, but I'm not okay with the way that I feel physically on a daily level. And when I become a mother, like I'm going to need so much more energy. And so if I'm going to attract a man who cares about the way that he feels and he looks because he's going to get older and you don't want bones breaking and heart failures and all of that, then you have to be intentional now. So it's just much more about vanity and all that stuff. It's more about functionality and energy and longevity.
And I think it even goes back to like, you have to be the person you want your spouse to be looking for, right? Like if you want a man who's high value and successful and organized and keeps his word and is on time, and you want a person who's like that, you need to first be that person that they're looking for. If they're always on time, they're probably looking for somebody who's also always on time. If they're high value,
I've gotten
and
better,
secure,
Katey. I hear you.
That wasn't at you.
I know.
That wasn't at you. But like if you want to be a person of integrity, you're going to want to date somebody who's a person of integrity, right? So be the person that they are looking for, because what you're looking for is a reflection of what they're also looking for, right? You're both, the idea is you're both looking for the same thing. And so if you're expecting them to be one thing, but you're not that, if you're expecting them to be fit, but you don't work out, obviously that's not going to work. You know what I mean? And so I think in this season, at least for me, it's been a season of who do I need to become to attract the person that I want to be with, and working on like what we were talking about earlier. I'm not going to do things that I used to do. I'm not going to go twerking at the club. I'm not, you know, because one, the man that I want to be with does not appreciate a girl twerking at the club.
You can twerk it like in your
bedroom.
You know, in your bedroom.
You can twerk in your bedroom. But like even just the way that I dressed I think it was in 2020, where I literally went through my closet and I was like, gotta go. The person that I'm looking for is not going to appreciate those outfits. And if he appreciates those outfits, I don't want him, because he's not a high value man who values class.
Because it's not so much about him, but about you and the woman that you want to be.
Absolutely.
Let's get that right. I've had this conversation of, oh, you're going to stop doing this because of this man. No, it has nothing to do with this man. It's because is how I feel and what I want to attract and how I want to present myself is much more important than that man. But as I'm acting as this woman, I know that type of man is going to come into my life, and that's what I want.
Exactly. I think it's like both and of wanting us to be on the same level. Right? Like I want to be here and I want a man who's also here. And so if I'm not operating there, then that's not going to attract that, you know?
Yeah. So what's the one thing you're working on in that area of your life that you want to improve upon?
There's one thing. I'm switching to moving to my business to a 4-day work week.
Okay.
And one of the reasons I already wanted to do that, but one of the reasons it was like specifically triggered for this year was because the last 2 guys I've been talking to said to me, "Are you sure you have time for a relationship?" And they were like, "You're just so busy." And I laughed because they were so right? They were so correct. I didn't have time for a relationship.
There's no space for them in your life.
There's no space. And so I thought, man, if any person that I end up dating, I'm going to need space for them in my life. And if I'm so busy working on myself and working on my business, they're going to feel like they just need to be squeezed in, and nobody wants to feel like they're being squeezed in.
They want you to be spontaneous and be
they
in
want
your
you
femininity.
to have, exactly.
Yes.
And so I was like, I need to switch my business, one, for my own, because I want to finish writing my book and do all these other things. But also because I need to create space for a person to step into my life. And right now I work till 10 o'clock at night because I love working in my business.
But you also want to have a companion.
Right. Yeah.
I love that. I'm so excited for all the things that you're doing in your life and your business. I'm very proud of you.
Thank you.
I tell you all the time, the Katey that you were a year ago or less than a year ago is a completely different person than who you are now. I think that you have a beautiful testimony. There are a lot of things that have happened in your life for you that are so powerful that other people need to hear it. I mean, from the physical to the spiritual to even what you do traveling, that has blessed me in many ways. And I can't wait to visit Dubai and Turkey with you. I mean, whenever I have a conversation with you, it's like, I didn't know that. And I feel like you've been exposed to so many different things in your life in the short, 33 years that you've been alive, that it's worth telling the world. So I'm excited about this podcast. I'm excited about your book. And I'm even more excited to be a part of your life, even if it's not on a daily basis. I love how much more intentional we are being. And I'm just looking forward to being a witness to the wonderful things God has destined for you.
Thank you so much. Oops. Went to hit my heart instead I hit my microphone. Thank you. Those words mean so much coming from you.
Yeah.
And just kind of to, like wrap up and circle back. I just feel like this is so sweet, having you here. I feel like it's a full circle moment for us. And I just really admire you. I admire your work. I admire you as a friend. I admire your hustle. I admire your capacity. I admire your heart. And it's so special for me to have a front row seat to the impact that you're making in the world, because even people who don't tell you that you're impacting them, you're impacting so many people. And anybody who follows you on social, if they don't say anything, you're still impacting them. Just like the way that you show up every day, the way that you overcome adversity, the way that you continue to follow Jesus, and the way that you just go for everything that you want without letting anything hold you back. No matter how many hurdles and obstacles come your way, you just keep going over them, leaping over them, crawling over them. Like, it doesn't matter if you're leaping or you're crawling, you're gonna get over it. And it's just so special. And I think you empower and you encourage so many people just by being you and by living your life. And I'm so touched to have a front row seat to that. And I just love you and adore you.
I love you too. I'm glad that we can do many things together. And when money is not an object, you can enjoy your life at a different level because you're operating from a different place in your life. Mm-hmm. And so many more doors open. You have to change your mindset that money is the root of all evil, because it isn't.
Absolutely
it just
not.
Truly gives you opportunities for much more impact. And I had to start with myself. And if you can help yourself, then you can help others. So if there's anything that I can say to encourage an entrepreneur,
what's your one thing?
Figure out what it is that's your non-negotiable and have a deadline. My deadline was that I had to pay for my rent or I was out of it. No one was going to help me. So like when you said that, it's like I had the urgency. My mom was paying for my groceries and I had to pay for everything else, and I was working 3 different jobs. So have a reason, have a deadline, and know that it's only for a season. God didn't bring you this far to
Just
only
to
bring you this far.
I love
He
that
has
one.
plans to prosper you and to grow you, just like Jeremiah. What is it? Jeremiah 29:11. 29:11. He has plans to prosper you. And if you have trust in that, it's not just you. God is using you. Just go for it. That gave me a lot of peace. Mm-hmm. And when you have peace in what you're doing and truly trust that that is not the end, you're going to overcome. And if you're not dead, it's not the end.
He's not done. It's not over.
It's not over. It's not over.
Well, it's been a pleasure having you. I'm so, like, I'm just in like such a moment right now. I'm just like so joyful and it's so much peace. If you just want to tell people where they can find you, how can they connect with you? If they want to work with you, where are you at?
Yes. If you want to connect and real estate related, you're looking to rent or buy a place here in Miami, or perhaps you're a real estate agent looking for tools, as I am launching my realtor guide.
Yes!
I haven't actually decided on the name yet, but I am putting together a book that I used myself on the last 13 months that I did to be able to get to over 13.5 million sold. Most of that, by the way, is in pre-construction. So if you look me up, you probably won't find that, because you have to actually, I hear a lot of people say that. It's like, you'll see by 2025, it'll all be out there because it's all pre-construction, baby. But if you want to find me, you can find me on Instagram at summer.aster. And I'm also on LinkedIn, Cindy Summer Perez. And just send me a DM. I don't like to give my number out there because there's been creeps.
All kinds of creepers.
But definitely find me, send me a DM. I answer my DMs, and I do prefer to be called Summer. So happy to be here. Thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure. And I hope that it serves your community and anyone else who's listening.
Yeah. Well, thanks for being here. And thanks everyone for joining another episode of the Entrepreneur Life podcast. We'll see you next time. And remember, today's a great day to start a business. Bye.